when we talk about conjugal violence, fear is the biggest factor, and COVID increased that fear tenfold.
Do get a lot of women who are post-separation, so they've managed to separate from their violent partner on their own, but they still need support and counseling. A lot of messaging back and forth via email, via text message. We were, doing a lot of phone calls that way because we were trying to make sure that we were still able to meet with the clients that we had in different means. So we really had to adjust ourselves. And the other thing we did right at the height of the pandemic, when we first went into confinement, was that we called everyone on our waiting list to see if they're okay.
Rise in divorces, we've heard, has went up 34% in the past year. But what are you seeing and what is being done legislatively or jurisprudentially in the courts to address what has been called an epidemic across the country of conjugal violence?
We have a conjugal violence crisis in our country. It's intensified as a result of the pandemic. And so even before the pandemic, the federal government had enacted legislation in order to amend the Divorce Act. And so this brought about fundamental changes to the Divorce Act, which just came in force last Monday on March 1st. The courts will now have to clearly look at issues of family violence, and not just conjugal violence, but family violence. It can always be the mother who's dating a new partner, and that partner is being abusive towards her or the children. And family violence is now clearly a defined concept in our law for couples who are being divorced. And it is a very wide range scope in terms of what constitutes family violence, from coercion, from stalking, from harassment, from even threatening to harm an animal that belongs to a child will be considered family violence.
We are taking a stand to utilize the one thing that the world really is having to think about and use to protect ourselves from one another, to make a statement about the importance of not being silenced. The distinction between silence and feeling silenced or being silenced is a really important one that we know women and children who are victims of conjugal violence experience day in and day out. Our initiative is launching today, Speak Out. For every mask that is purchased, $10 will go directly to the West Island Women's Shelter in support of the services that Tiffany and Helen and all the women at the shelter are able to provide. This message, by wearing it at the grocery store or at work or even online in your Zoom meetings today, makes a big statement about what we're all going through and what we really do need to pay attention to when it comes to these women.
They see a Speak Out mask, they'll know that somebody cares, that somebody's thinking about them. Are you feeling out there that people are still remembering that this is a problem? Or like, don't bother me with another thing, I got enough headaches of my own?
Federal and provincial governments, I must say, in the past year have really focused and devoted time and funds to help us. Because I'll give you an example, and this is striking to me, that in our country, about 19,000 women and children per month are being turned away from shelters.
Today, women are listening for each other's greatness like never before. And there are so many ways for this issue of conjugal violence to make its way into that conversation for women, to help women and rise above that. So
we can do 20 to 25,000 masks, can't we?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.